Men in Black, Shadow People, and the Philadelphia Experiment. As someone who writes books, gives lectures, and posts articles here, I get a lot of feedback, and for the most part it comes from people who want to share their experiences, ask questions, or offer opinions on things I've written. And this, of course, it's not by me, it's by Nick Redfern, Mysterious Universe on Bended Reality. He says, occasionally, however, I find myself on the receiving end of a communication or several from someone claiming an insider-type background, a whistleblower, in other words. It doesn't happen so often as more than a few have assumed. I don't get asked to meet people in underground parking areas at midnight, and I have never been invited to view a bunch of dead aliens held in a secure fortified bunker. And well, you get the picture. There have, however, been a few occasions when my path has crossed with that of enigmatic characters whose backgrounds did indeed place them in the world of certain covert activities, all connected to UFOs in one way or another. This occurred most graphically when I was researching and writing my books on the trail of the saucer spies, body snatchers in the desert, and final events. But Body Snatchers was published back in 2005, Saucer Spies 2006, and Final Events 2010. In other words, more than quite a while ago. Beyond that, and aside from the occasional tidbit, I really don't get deep throat type figures knocking on my door. But just a few days ago it happened again. In this case it came in the form of an unknown caller, quote unquote, phone call in the early afternoon. The elderly man at the other end of the line said that he had read my books, Men in Black and Women in Black, and wanted to share something relevant. It all revolved, he said, around the notorious Philadelphia Experiment of 1943. So before I get onto that story, here's a bit of background on that controversial event, or non-event, depending on your opinion. Back in 1955, Morris K. Jessup's book, The Case for the UFO, was published. It was a book that deeply delved into two key issues. A, the theoretical power source of UFOs, and B, the utilization of the universal gravitational field as a form of energy. Not long after the publication of the book, Jessup became the recipient of a series of extremely strange missives from a certain Carlos Miquel Allende of Pennsylvania. In his correspondence, Allende, a very unreliable and discredited figure, commented on Jessup's theories. He also gave details of an alleged secret experiment conducted by the U.S. Navy in Philadelphia Naval Yard, October 1943. Thus was born the highly controversial saga what has become known as the Philadelphia Experiment. According to Allende's incredible tale, during the experiment, a warship was rendered optically invisible and teleported to and then back from Norfolk, Virginia in a few minutes. The incredible feat was supposedly accomplished by applying Albert Einstein's never-completed unified field theory. Allende elaborated that the ship used in the experiment was the DE-173 USS Eldridge, and moreover that he, Allende, had actually witnessed one of the attempts to render both the ship and its crew invisible from his position out at sea on board a steamer called the SS Andrew Furusev. If Allende was telling the truth, then the Navy had not only began to grasp the nature of invisibility, but it had also stumbled upon the secret teleportation of the type demonstrated years later in fictional on-screen format in The Fly. And on these very matters, Allende made the disturbing claim that the experiment rendered many of the crew members as mad as hatters. Others supposedly vanished from the ship while the test was in its height, never to be seen again. Others reportedly suffered horrific and agonizing deaths. For the record, I don't believe at all that a number of the crew were plunged into the future. That's just complete rubbish. Nor do I believe that for years afterwards, the surviving sailors would briefly vanish from view, then return from their states of temporary invisibility. But I am open to the possibility that perhaps some kind of experiment may have gone ahead. It may have provoked bizarre hallucinations that made it appear as if extremely strange things were afoot on the ship. We're talking about a far more down-to-earth experiment but which had unforeseen effects on the minds of a very small number of crew. Why I think this is something I will discuss in another article in the next couple of weeks. All of which brings us back to the matter of Mr. Unknown Caller. Like me, he had no time for teleportation or time travel based scenarios, but what he did believe was certainly as controversial, perhaps even more so. He claimed that in the early 1980s he was given the opportunity to read U.S. Navy files that told the real story of the Philadelphia experiment. He was extremely cagey on verifiable facts, no surprises there, I have to say, but maintained that the experiment had a bearing on the aforementioned men in black and women in black, and I asked, in what way? His reply was that the experiment, the precise nature of which he would not comment on, created what he called a shift, quote unquote, that allowed those aboard to see certain things that in a normal state they, you, and I would not see, but which are supposedly around us all the time. We're talking about the men in black, women in black, and even what have become popularly known in recent years as the shadow people. So the tale went, the stories of the crew members vanished or became fused into the metal of the ship itself were very wide of the mark. They were, I was assured, widely distorted accounts of the crew seeing men in black, women in black, and shadow people walking through walls, becoming invisible, and then reappearing. But that it didn't take long before the truth of the matter became a tale of vanishing sailors. This is by Nick Redfern, Mysterious Universe, and it's on Bended Reality. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.